If this brace is too large, you might think of scaling it down, but if you do that, it is likely not to work because these sections of the model are already so small that if they're made even smaller, they likely will not print properly. And also, if you scale down the hinges proportionally, those also will become so small that they are likely not to work. So what we'll need to do is to create an alternative knee brace. And to do that, we'll use Tinkercad. In Tinkercad, we'll start a new design and rename it. Then on the right-hand side, click the magnifying glass icon and search for the keyword bent. And what we want is this bent pipe. So we'll click and drag that out to the work plane. We don't want this bend to be 90 degrees, so we can change the bend angle by using the slider on the side. Let's say about 17, which put just a slight bend in there. The wall thickness, this is going to be a small piece, so 3 might be a little thick. So we'll click in there and change that to 2 and hit return on the keyboard. So we know that the wall is 2 millimeters thick on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side, and the outer pipe width is 20. So the inner hole is 20 minus 4, 16. Now if our doll knee is 16 millimeters in diameter, then we're all set. But let's say it's 18 millimeters. So we'll click there and we'll change 20 to 18 plus 4, 22, return. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for the change to appear in the model. We'll look at it from the top. Let's say I want to shorten the length a little bit. So the lead-in length is 20. I'll make that 15. And also the lead out length, I'll change to 15. I'll stand the model up. I don't want to print it in this orientation, right? Because then I would need supports all throughout the middle, and those would be difficult to remove. So I'll rotate this upright and then tap the D key on the keyboard to drop it to the work plane. That looks good. Now, in this orientation, even though there's a slight overhang, I would not need supports because this angle is much less than 45 degrees, so I'm safe not to have supports here. So I could export this and print it as is, but I'd like to make a hole in the front so that kneecap is able to breathe. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is change the color to something that's more visible. That dark blue is hard to see. Okay. So on the right-hand side, I'll choose a cylinder, drag it out, and I'm going to smooth the sides. You can see the sides of the cylinder are kind of rough, so I'm going to move the slider all the way to the right to make it more smooth. I know the interior of this bent pipe is 18 millimeters, so I want the diameter of this to be less because I don't want it to be digging into the sides. You'll see what I mean in a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and make that 16. 16. I'm going to rotate the cylinder 90 degrees, lift it up, move it roughly in position. Okay. Select both pieces, choose align, and align side to side and up and down. Check on the interior. That's not all the way through, so I'm going to click off both pieces, click on just the orange cylinder, and using my arrow key, I'm going to just move it back so that it's gone all the way through cleanly. Now with the orange shape still selected, I will turn it into a hole by clicking hole, click off both shapes, select both of them, and group. There. I could add further decoration to this piece, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to call this good. Just realize, though, now when you slice this to get the model ready for printing, you will need to add supports because the top of that circle will need to be supported. But that's fine. Those supports will break away, and you'll end up with a nice, clean model. The last step then would be to click Export, export as STL, and then bring the model into your slicer, slice the model, and print.